Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth's release is right around the corner, and we recently got invited to get some early hands-on time with many different parts of the game. Gripping emotional story? Check. Animal Crossing-inspired life sim mode that's going to take up countless hours of my time? Big check. A wild boss battle with a monster shark the size of a boat? You better believe it, fellow crime pals. Infinite Wealth is already my most anticipated game for 2024, so I was very excited to dive right in. Also, a small spoiler warning. There are going to be some story things mentioned in here for the series, much like Gaiden before it. Infinite Wealth is a game you probably shouldn't jump into as your first game in the series. It relies heavily on knowing a lot of these characters. With that heads up out of the way, let's talk about Ichiban and Kiryu's Hawaiian adventure. We began our day sitting down and getting an overview of everything new in Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Ichiban and his found family crew are back, along with some new faces, including a taxi driver named Eric Tomizawa, and a mysterious housekeeper named Chitose Fujinomiya. Ichiban has made the trip to Hawaii to find his biological mother Akane, who was originally thought to be deceased, but apparently is alive somewhere on the islands. This revelation sets our adventure in motion and allows Ichiban to come into contact with the legendary Yakuza, Kazuma Kiryu. It just so happens that Kiryu is also on the island at the time, getting some well-deserved rest after the events of Gaiden, making a very important stop at a church. He joins up with Ichiban's party and is one of the playable characters throughout the game, bringing his own Kiryu-style mechanics to the table. His attacks can be modified by swapping between 3 different stances, and can even force his way out of the standard turn-based combat for a short amount of time and bring the pain in real-time brawler combat, mirroring how Kiryu would be controlled in the classic Yakuza games. It's a clever way to break up traditional RPG combat while still remaining true to Kiryu's character, and melds very well with the systems already in place. Our initial time in the open world is spent exploring some of what is the largest digital map ever seen in a Yakuza game. Think, we can fit a whole Kamurocho in here and have room for another whole map big. It's huge, but it doesn't come at the cost of the level of detail you would expect. The developer RGG Studio visited Hawaii to ensure its version is authentic, even worked with local stores to feature some of them inside of the game similar to what they did with previous locations in Japan. Some examples are 88Ts and the ABC stores that you would find in the islands. It really adds that extra level of authenticity and immersion to the game's setting. It's impressive how densely packed and alive the map still felt, even with such an incredible increase in size. Whether it's your whole party narrowly dodging cars while cruising on segways, or telling all the local residents to hang loose by throwing shakas to everyone you see, the world feels so alive and populated. There's also no shortage of activities and all the series' signature side quests. I met and inspired a Hollywood film actor with a passion for practical effects by becoming a part-time stuntman, and just down the road I ran into a familiar scientist who's still working on creating the perfect giant AI-driven room to keep the streets clean. Based on what we saw, it seems safe to say that sub-stories are still going to be as enjoyable and memorable as they always have been in the series past. These all work well into the bond and drink systems that are also returning, where you build up and strengthen your friendships with not just your party, but also others all over the island. Now you'll also be able to fill out some sort of bingo card and learn specific things about each one of the lovable characters. It was also this part of the demo that I got to really mess around with the changes of the combat system, which allows you to move around in a small area now. This may seem like something insignificant at first, but it plays really well into the cool new ways you can have your party team up and take out whatever stands in your way. Positioning in combat is very important. Attacks will tell you their area of effect, and what way they may push whoever's unfortunate enough to be receiving the hit. This can lead to cool moments where you'll be standing next to another party member and execute a proper team attack, or even hit them over to another party member who will react automatically and pile on more damage. It's all very satisfying and feels like a smart evolution of RGG's already fun take on turn-based RPGs. Another major change that stuck out was how much there is to Sujimon now. In Yakuza Like a Dragon, Ichiban would go around cataloging people you battle like they were Pokemon. It sounds weirder than it actually is in context. This feature seems to now have drawn inspiration from Pokemon Go. Around the open world you'll find Pokestop-style locations where you can collect items and even take part in Sujimon raids. It all works very well and feels like a great addition to flesh out a really cool optional portion of the game. The last bit of my demo time was spent learning all about Alo-Happy Tours, a Japanese travel agency set up to help Japanese tourists get the most out of their trips to Hawaii, which allows you to learn new jobs or classes in Infinite Wealth. One of my favorite parts of Yakuza Like a Dragon was the many different combat classes that were based off of a real job that you'd get from the temp work agency, Hello Work. This time around, your party will find inspiration from taking island tours and participating in planned activities around the island. It is usually accompanied by short, fun cutscenes showing how the inspiration for the class you unlock comes about. For instance, spending time on the beach with your party and having a water gun fight will inspire Ichiban to become an Old West-style gunslinger. The whole process reminds me of the old Revelation system, where Kiryu would witness something wild happen and discover a new heat action after blogging furiously about it. I could only bring myself to watch a few because I didn't want to become fully spoiled just yet. But what I did see was everything I could hope it would be. And it has me so excited to see what else there is once I finally get my hands on the full game. Next, we got to check out the new life simulation mode being introduced in Infinite Wealth. One that may seem very similar to fans of games like Animal Crossing, Harvest Moon, or even Final Fantasy XIV Online's Island Sanctuaries. Every hardworking hero needs a chance to rest. We may have only gotten 30 minutes to play the very opening of Dondoko Island, but I could already feel how easily it's going to make me lose so many hours just playing this alone. It feels like it could almost be a game all by itself. I love that the island itself mirrors Ichiban and his character arc, the rock-bottom dragon rising up from the darkness to something better and greater. Your main task is to rebuild the island from nothing to something that people want to visit. You go from cleaning out trash to raising skyscrapers and even golden statues. There's even a storyline to help carry you through your island restoration adventure. We didn't get much time with it, but what I can say is it involves helping Gachapin and Muku, two mascots from an old Japanese show that Grand Blue Fantasy fans will surely recognize. You get to design both a home of your own and a great deal of the island itself too. Every section you clear out gives you free reign to drop in any furniture you craft or purchase from the island store. You can find new crafting recipes and build things with all the materials you gather while clearing out the island. The system flows well and functions exactly how you'd expect if you've played similar games. I got good use out of the music player feature too, blasting Friday Night while I bashed away at trees and rocks or even fished the day away. It appears to be a wonderful mode, and I cannot wait to see more of what it has to offer. We also got to dive into a pre-selected section of the story from late in the game, focused on Kiryu. He's back in Yokohama with Nanba, Saiko, and fan favorite Son-hee, who is finally a playable character now, and doing his best to navigate his thoughts and feelings after learning that he has cancer. In an attempt to help Kiryu process his diagnosis, the team suggests writing up a bucket list for the former Yakuza legend, and sets off to try and get as many of them done as they can. The list contains everything from being able to enjoy some tamago without having to look over his shoulder, or singing his heart out at karaoke. Kiryu's had a rough life, and some of the things on this list really drive that home. Once he drafts his bucket list, a new menu option allows you to track all of Kiryu's unfinished business. Finishing items on this list will help him awaken his abilities and become stronger. My favorite part of this bucket list has to be all the interaction points that get added to the map and provide flashbacks to important events in Kiryu's life. I really appreciate this sort of reflection, especially with a character that's as fleshed out as Kiryu, who many fans have spent almost 2 decades with at this point. This was the point that made me think that, even though this is a shared adventure with 2 protagonists, Kiryu's side might be the main focus, not unlike Yakuza 0 being more Majima's game. This is also why I feel like Infinite Wealth could be hard to recommend as a starting point for those who want to get into the series. There's a lot that leans on prior knowledge, and knowing that will help make your experience more impactful, especially on Kiryu's side. After the story segment, we got to take part in a boss fight with no context for what was happening. An encounter on the back of a small ship facing off a giant shark, like as big as the boat we were on. It was a wild spectacle, and I couldn't help but wonder the whole time I was fighting it, how did Ichiban and everyone get there? What had brought them out here to this spot, to get into a wild fistfight with a mega shark? The fight itself was set up to not be too hard for us. We were a bit over-leveled and had tons of items if we needed them. But even with that, I could still see the benefits of playing smart. Applying buffs and debuffs and using the right elemental attacks to hit its weak points. It felt amazing to chain stuns and see the high damage numbers popping up. It makes me excited to see what sort of wild fights we might run into down the line, and see just how well mastering that combat system is really going to pay off. I have no idea how they'll manage to top a giant shark, but I'm sure they will somehow. They always do. After trying Infinite Wealth, it was hard not to reflect on how far the series has come and all the places it's gone. Everything all its characters have been through. Feels like it's going to be special, and I'm very excited to see it through. We don't have to wait too long to hang out with Ichiban, Kiryu, and the rest of the other crime pals, as Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth is coming out on January 26, 2024.